From winning an Olympic gold medal to becoming a two-division UFC champ, this is why fighters are still scared of Henry Cejudo. Despite retiring at the top of his game, as both the world flyweight and bantamweight champions, Henry Cejudo decided to jump right back into the ring, quite literally, and demanded a match to defend his title. This meant beating Aljamain Sterling, the reigning bantamweight champ, but, he lost by a split decision. But since it was his first fight in 3 years,
it has been 3 years, but I had a great training camp.
Cejudo's supporters claimed that he probably needed a practice match before he fully bounced back. After going away for that long and having to face Aljo Sterling, who's a legend himself, Triple C still managed to give us a very close fight. And once again, just like in the past, before he retired, Henry Cejudo proved himself a bad mother effer. The loss against Aljo aside, Cejudo will definitely bounce back. He always does, especially after a serious loss, which is scary. And here's why we should be scared of Henry Cejudo. For starters, Cejudo has amazing, unique, and insane fighting skills. He's got the kind of skills you'll never see in other UFC fighters. That's because Cejudo came from Olympic wrestling. This means his grappling game is off the chain, which usually plays a huge role in knockout wins. Because of this, Cejudo has whooped some serious ass in the octagon. From the likes of Demetrius Johnson, TJ Dillashaw to Merlin Moraes, all of whom are legends, by the way. Fight analysts credited the wins to his grappling skills, which he got from Olympic wrestling. And when you combine that with a little boxing experience, then you've got yourself an undisputed MMA fighter. But that's not all. Cejudo's got speed too. Oh yeah, when he steps into the octagon, the dude's got the speed of lightning, and his footwork could make Michael Jackson so proud. Opponents can't compete with his fast hands either. His punches are faster than gossip at a high school party. Plus, Triple C can close the gap on his opponents faster than you can say knockout. UFC fighters, even though they may not admit it, dread going against Henry Cejudo. That's because when you're in the octagon with him, it's like dancing with a dude who's a beast in every aspect of the game. As an opponent, you have to match Cejudo's speed, accuracy, and non-stop pace, which is not only tiring, but super scary. As if that's not enough, Cejudo's striking game has evolved big time. He ain't just a wrestler anymore. This dude's punches are tight, his kicks pack a serious punch, and his accuracy is on point like a sniper. When you combine this with his grappling game, you have a beast, a lethal son of a gun. His takedowns are straight up nasty, and once Cejudo puts his opponent on the ground, he's like a python squeezing the life out of him. In essence, his ground and pound is salvation. The other reason why fighters are still scared of Henry Cejudo is his experience on the big stage. Despite a 3-year hiatus from the game, Cejudo is used to this. He's been doing this since he was 11 years old, and even though the game seems a little bit changed with new fighters, much younger fighters, Cejudo ain't afraid. He's got the experience. Of course, there have been criticisms against Triple C, especially after his loss to Aljo Sterling. But that's it. He always bounces back and he'll never back down. I mean, you don't become an Olympic gold medalist in wrestling, then go ahead to conquer both the MMA and UFC without working your ass off. Cejudo's got that grind and hustle. It's innate. And best of all, his fight IQ is top notch. I mean, no one can read a fight like Henry Cejudo does. Just watch some of this fight analysis on his YouTube channel, and you'll see what I mean. It's probably why he was a highly sought-after coach. Cejudo has coached the likes of Zhang Weili, Yeezy Prohaska, and John Jones. He even helped Davison Figueiredo reclaim his title by defeating Brandon Moreno. There's no doubt that Cejudo has a great fight IQ, and the fact that he comes from a wrestling background, has great speed, and then combine that with an evolved striking game, fighters should be scared. However, there are some doubting Thomases out there, some of whom think Cejudo isn't much of a threat. For instance, critics claim that Henry Cejudo might have a hard time adapting. While it's only been 3 years since Henry Cejudo retired, a lot has changed. The game ain't the same. Thanks to social media and the emerging influence of influencer boxers, the UFC is getting loads of media attention. More people are subscribing to the sport, which means more pay-per-view, which also means more moolah, especially for the fighters. And because of this, there's more pressure to perform, something that didn't exist 3 years ago. Nonetheless, this shouldn't be a problem for Henry Cejudo, because he wasn't really gone. He wasn't out of the game. He's been around, doing some coaching gigs here and there. It's not like he didn't know what's going on. He's seen the game change. Cejudo is actually known for his adaptability. The simple fact that he came from Olympic wrestling, worked on his striking game, and took the win in 2 divisions should tell you just how adaptable Cejudo can be. I mean, the guy transitioned from wrestling to MMA in no time. In January 2013, Cejudo announced he'd try out the MMA. He had 0 experience in the sport, and only 2 months later, he had his debut against Michael Poe, and surprisingly, Cejudo won with a TKO. Yeah, the dude knocked out his very first opponent, and over the next year, Triple C won 6 straight wins. Yo, that's not just impressive, that's the definition of badassery. He had to move up the ranks. He probably was like, I need some real challenge, and that's what he did. On July 2014, Cejudo signed with the UFC. As expected, he got a real challenge. He experienced his first defeats. The first one was by Demetrius Johnson, aka the Mighty Mouse. Cejudo lost via knockout in the first round. I mean, it was terrible. Having gone undefeated for such a long time, getting knocked out in the first round shuttered his ego. But he learned a great lesson. He needed to change his game. He needed to improve on his striking game. While his attacks were explosive, his striking game wasn't that great, especially defensively. He simply couldn't counterattack DJ's powerful strikes. After another loss to Joseph Benavidez, Cejudo changed his game once again. He decided to learn Shotokan Karate, which helped him offensively. It wasn't about attacking more, but rather attacking better. He learned how to use the movement of his opponents in a smarter way. This made a huge difference in his fighting. Cejudo became more efficient, with better timing. Now, combine all of that with his wrestling experience, and you've got yourself a monster. Therefore, Cejudo is very adaptable, so any changes in the game shouldn't be a problem. The only notable flaw on Cejudo's part is the fact that he's been dodging fights. I mean, look at his resume. He's won 16 fights and lost 3 times, which is pretty much impressive, but that's just 19 fights. Sure, he beat some top-tier fighters, but where's the love for the rematch, man? Let's go back to his fight against Joseph Benavidez. Cejudo got the win, but it was a very close fight, and the fans were hungry for a rematch. Instead, Triple C opted to move up to bantamweight to fight Moraes. Seriously, Triple C? It's like going to a buffet, eat a single chicken wing, and then leave? Come on, man. The dude should give us more fights. Yes, when Cejudo retired, it was because he was starting a family, which is understandable. But now that he's back, the 2-division champion shouldn't shy away from fights. Nonetheless, Cejudo's short resume doesn't mean he isn't up to the task. The dude is still a monster. And now that he's added coaching experience to his resume, anyone going against him should be scared. And despite losing his first fight after coming back from retirement, Cejudo is a force to be reckoned with. He's come back to prove all the haters wrong. He wants to etch his name among the all-time greats in the UFC, and we should all be scared. So there you have it, my peeps. Henry Cejudo is not only a great fighter with great speed, an amazing grappling game, and a badass coach, but he's got that thing that's missing in other UFC fighters. It's probably that fight IQ, or the fact that he came from Olympic wrestling, which makes him so adaptable. Whatever it is, there's definitely a reason why fighters are still scared of Henry Cejudo.